Howdy buckaroos, how's it going? Welcome to my first video on this channel that has commentary. I've been wanting to do something other than uploading raw gameplay, but I simply didn't know what to start with. I made an entire Google Doc filled with possible video ideas, and I even tried a few, but none of them were quite to my liking. So finally, I created a video that I put a lot of effort into, and that I like how it turned out. So I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, let's begin talking about the one and only Tri-Stringer. This is a weapon that belongs to one of the two new weapon classes in Splatoon 3. These classes are the Stringers and the Splatons. As the name implies, the Tri-Stringer obviously belongs to the Stringer class. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the Tri-Stringer has been receiving a lot of critiques since its debut in the Splatoon 3 Splatfest demo. However, I've been using it a lot, I really like it, and so today I've been wanting to make a little bit of a guide and teach you why the Tri-Stringer is actually a very, very good weapon. Starting with the range, the Stringer actually has a very far reach. It outmatches the Splattershot Pro, Rapid Blaster Pro, 96 Gal, Jet Squelcher, Ballpoint Splatling, Explosher, and Hydra Splatling. It also slightly outranges the normal Splat Charger. However, if you use the Splatter Scope, then the range between Scope and Stringer is exactly equal. Now, while the Tri-Stringer outmatches many weapons in terms of range, a very infamous backline weapon will still pose a threat to it. This weapon is none other than the E-Leader. The E-Leader has a larger reach than the Tri-Stringer, but not by too much. Once you consider the other benefits the Stringer has, a slight lack of range won't actually mean much. Although the Tri-Stringer's range is rather impressive, its painting power really is not. Nearly every weapon will paint better than it, and weapons like Splattershot Jr. will just decimate it in terms of paint. The painting tech for the Stringer has been discovered, and that definitely helps the weapon out, but it still isn't a strong painting weapon. Low painting power is a major disadvantage when trying to, let's say, flee from fights, or when moving in quickly after a team wipe. But if the rest of your team composition can ink turf, then things aren't as bad for you. Now, yes, you still can't paint great for yourself, but you do have your Toxic Mist to slow enemies, and then hopefully you can escape. Moving on to, I would say, a strength of the Tri-Stringer is its kill power. I don't want to say kill speed, because the Tri-Stringer really can't kill fast, but it can deal high amounts of damage if you use it the right way. So, again, the question, if the Tri-Stringer can't paint well, can it kill well? And my answer to that is, sort of. The Stringer doesn't have a high DPS, and DPS stands for damage per second. An example of an extremely high DPS weapon would be Sploosh-O-Matic. Sploosh just shreds through everything. I mean, that's why it was used, Sploosh 7 specifically, was used in Rainmaker for Splatoon 2 a lot. So, like I said, the DPS isn't high for the Stringer. And so if the DPS isn't high, what do you mean it can kill well, you know? Well, what I mean by that is it can deal high amounts of damage. And in other words, it does not kill enemies quickly, but it will deal high damage and strongly kill enemies, you could say. So there are 3 different ways that the Stringer can deal damage. Now, by far its strongest in terms of raw damage is landing a direct with the Tri-Stringer. And now a direct with the Tri-Stringer is essentially like sniping someone with a charger. And this is done by landing all 3 arrows onto your target. So if you do that, you will deal 105 damage. Missing 1 arrow will deal 70 damage, and only hitting 1 will deal 35 damage. Now from that data, we can tell that 1 charged arrow from the Tri-Stringer deals 35 damage. However, you can still deal damage even if you don't directly hit your arrows. This is because your charged arrows will become explosion rounds if you don't hit them against a player. And this is our second way to damage people. So if you don't hit them against a player, but rather a wall or the floor or something like that, each indirect explosion dart will deal around 28 damage. Landing all three will do a total of 84 damage, and if two ways weren't enough to damage your opponents, there's a third. This is done by tap shooting. Tap shooting is simply tapping your trigger once and releasing. The maximum damage that can be dealt by tap shooting is 60, which means you need to tap shot at least twice in order to kill your opponent, dealing a total of 120 damage. So a little bit of overkill, but you have to do it twice to actually kill someone by tap shooting. From all of this, you can gather kind of a good idea of how Stringer kills, which again, it doesn't kill fast, but it can kill strong. Let's talk about playstyle. Now, after talking about the mechanics of the Tri-Stringer, I want to speak about its playstyle. I've played the Stringer for quite a while, and believe I've figured out its most optimal playstyle, if I might be so bold to say. And it's probably very different from how you might be playing that day. Rather than focusing on landing directs and sniping people like a charger would, you're better off using the explosive rounds that a weapon provides. The reason for this is that if you miscalculate your third arrow by just a little bit, then you'll miss, and you won't get the kill. If you use the AoE, or also known as area of effect damage, you can zone out specific areas and you'll have a stronger grip on certain locations of the maps. You'll notice that through using the AoE, you won't necessarily get the kills yourself, but will rather get assists or help your teammates get kills. I've noticed that the Stringer really excels on tower control and splat zones. Now this is because you can centralize your shots on the objective very, very easily. With a game mode like Rainmaker, as soon as someone has picked up the Rainmaker, the objective can move really all over the place on the map. And for Clam Blitz, you have a ton of different enemies moving in on the clam basket, and it's hard to kind of target one specifically and say, I'm going to target just this opponent and, then stop the objective. So tower control and splat zones are really great because the objective, you can clearly see it. It's right there, and even on tower control, if it's moving, it's the huge tower. You can centralize fire there. And so now moving on to a few tips. For tower control, I like to throw Toxic Mist whenever I can. Just right up onto the tower is a good spot. And this is good because if the enemies are moving onto the tower, they will be forced eventually to get off because Toxic Mist will slow their movement and will take away ink from their ink tank. So either they'll keep riding the tower and will just lose all their ink and will also be slowed heavily, or they'll be forced to jump off the tower. So yeah, that's what I like to do for tower control. Now for splat zones, I essentially do the same thing but on the splat zone. However, there's a little bit more depth to it. So I like to focus my painting power, or whatever I can paint, onto the splat zone. Same thing with the Toxic Mist if people are right on the zone contesting it. However, in addition to using Toxic Mist and painting right on the zone, I like to focus my attention onto other flank routes and possible openings. So let's say there's a common flank route. Let's say Sturgeon's Shipyard. Let's say someone's dropping off left on Sturgeon's Shipyard. You can keep on throwing Toxic Mist over there because then they'll be slowed down. Everyone will kind of be able to see them. And then you can, get a couple of shots on them. Or maybe right on Sturgeon Shipyard, someone's coming up. You can take your Killer Whale 5.1 and you can target it right on them. So there's a couple of different ways that you can go about things with splat zones, and really just keeping a lookout for openings and flank routes, and then also the zone itself. You can figure out some good ways to use Toxic Mist and Killer Whale 5.1. And I did forget to mention, for tower control, Killer Whale 5.1 is really good to put right on the tower. Whoever's on it, just pop it, and then they'll die eventually. Or they'll be forced to get off of the tower, and which is even better for you. So, alright, there's a few tips. That's the playstyle, the range, and the kill speed along with the paint. So that's everything that I could think of to include in this video today. But if you have any questions regarding gear builds, maps, game modes, how to play each game mode, and you want a more in-depth look at it, just let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions regarding the Tri-Stringer or Splatoon 3 as a whole, please let me know. I definitely do plan on covering more Tri-Stringer content, as I really enjoy playing the weapon, and I think I can give a lot of good information about it. And you can also just expect more Splatoon 3 content from me in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Alright, toodaloo.